Hello and welcome back for another Torah Tuesday. Have I got a treat for you today? One of the places that I filmed on location was at the Ramesseum, which is the memorial temple of Ramses II in Luxor. Luxor is 400 miles south of the Delta region where the Hebrews lived. If you take the late date of Exodus, Ramses II would be the most likely candidate to be the pharaoh of the Exodus. And what we know is that Ramses II is the one who started massive building projects in the Delta region. And he was the first pharaoh to do so after a long period of pharaohs living down south in Luxor. So although Ramses II built his funerary temple in Luxor, his palace and most of his administration was taking place in the Delta region. So I'm about to take you on a little field trip to the Ramesseum so that you can see a little bit about his building projects. But before we do, I want to remind you what it says in Exodus chapter 1, verse 11 about Pharaoh's oppression of the Israelites. It says, "So they set taskmasters over them in order to crush them with heavy labor, and they built cities of warehouses for Pharaoh, Pithom and Ramses." In chapter 5, we're told that they're making bricks. They make their bricks with straw. And so making mud bricks and doing field work seems to be the two main things that the Israelite labor was conscripted for. And I got to see some of that kind of work, or the evidence of that kind of work, at the Ramesseum. Check it out. Okay, friends, this is very exciting because I am standing inside a storage facility made out of mud brick. This storage facility dates back to the time of Ramses II. It's at the Ramesseum near Luxor in Upper Egypt. I'm going to get close to see. I'm not seeing straw in these particular bricks, but I am seeing pieces of stone and broken pottery and whatever else they mixed in. I'm going to move outside so that I can turn around and you can see how these look from the outside. These are amazingly well preserved. These would not have been made by the Hebrews because they were far north of here in the Delta region, but we have evidence of storage facilities just like this in the Delta. All that's left of them, they're not very well preserved. All that's left of them is the foundation, which is pretty boring. Here we have this remarkably well preserved. These arches, there are something like 80 of them here, 80 arches. Oh, here's some with straw. So you can see the little bits of straw in the bricks. I'm right in the sun here, so let me get you in the shade so you can see the straw mixed in with the bricks. We have seen so much mud brick all throughout the land of Egypt in modern buildings, modern homes, including ancient homes. So fascinating. You can see we're kind of standing in the aisleway here of so many different storage facilities, giving us an idea of the kind of work that the Israelites would have done in Goshen. Okay, so now you have seen mud brick storage cities surrounding the memorial temple of Ramses II. One of the really cool things about my trip, I didn't know this was going to happen ahead of time, is that I got to go on a hot air balloon ride in Luxor. We went on the hot air balloon ride before I even knew what I was looking at from the air because we had just arrived in Luxor, and so we hadn't been to all of these places yet. But I got an aerial shot of the Ramesseum along with many other fascinating sights. And so you can see from above, from the picture here, that the temple itself, although it's massive, is dwarfed by the number of storage facilities that are all around it. And I mentioned in the video that there were about 80 of them, and you can see them lined up all the way around. Each one of them would have been the size of several train cars. Like, these are long storage units. They would have been filled with food supplies and other storage items that are kept really well in mud brick because mud brick has a wonderful regulating quality. It regulates the temperature, so it's nice and cool on hot days. It holds in the heat in the winter, so it has a more even temperature throughout the year. I'm told that most people in Egypt in ancient times lived in mud brick houses. And the reason they built temples out of stone was for them to be lasting, but if you lived in a stone house, you would be very miserable all the time, temperature-wise. So even Pharaoh's palace was made out of mud brick because it was much more comfortable to live in. So mud bricks were used everywhere. Evidently, they needed a lot of them. And here we have the Israelites making them. Now, another treat of our time in Luxor is that we got to go to the tombs of the nobles, and we got to go inside the Tomb of Rekhmire, who was a vizier of Ramses II, which meant he oversaw a lot of the building projects that Ramses had going on. And one of the beautiful things about this tomb, and it was my favorite, is it has beautiful painted illustrations of life in ancient Egypt. And all of the different industries that Rekhmire oversaw are depicted on the walls. So we have grapes being picked and made into wine, the chiseling of statues, the making of leather, metal work, all sorts of industries. We also have a scene that shows brick making, and it shows the process of drawing water, pouring it on the clay soil, stamping it with their feet, to mix it all around and get it to the right consistency, putting it in the brick mold, putting it out in the sun to dry, then gathering it up and measuring the stack so that we know whether we have met our quota of bricks, and then carrying those bricks using a yoke to the building project, which in this case is a mud brick ramp that would have been used to help build a stone wall for a temple. So it's really cool to see kind of step by step how the brick industry worked, and then to see the results of that industry in these storage warehouses of Ramses II. So I hope you've enjoyed this sneak peek into the ancient world and their building methods, and enjoyed these pictures. I have one more video that I took while I was in Egypt that I will share with you next week that will introduce us to Egyptian cosmology. Until then, have a great week.